Pokemon is a varied game, with a lot of varied Pokemon. Some are good, some are not so good, and some are male combis. There are also Pokemon which have some interesting quirks, and one of these Pokemon is Shuckle. Shuckle has a base stat total of 505, which on paper is pretty good. The problem shows itself though when you look at how these stats are distributed, because while Shuckle has an absolutely monumental 230 base defense and special defense, the rest of its stats are pathetic. 20 base HP, 10 base attack and special attack, and 5 base speed. It's a very unique Pokemon and can fill a niche role in a more competitive setting. However, Shuckle kind of sucks in an actual playthrough because you have very little damage output. So the next thought is obvious. Can you beat a Pokemon game with a single Shuckle? Let's lay out the rules for this. Obviously, I'm only allowed to use Shuckle in battles, but I am allowed to have other Pokemon that I use for HM usage. In terms of in-battle, no items, because full restoring my way to victory isn't really that interesting. Held items are okay to use though. Another thing I want to avoid is power leveling Shuckle to get past challenges, so I'm implementing a sort of soft level cap for gyms. Gym 1 has level 20, Gym 2 level 30, Gym 3 level 40, and so on. This isn't a definitive rule, more so a preference on my part. I will try to avoid going above these levels if I can. Lastly, I'm doing this in Pokemon Platinum. Why? I like Pokemon Platinum. Without further ado, let's start the Shuckle only run. Shortly after starting the game, we travel north to pick up our first Pokemon. I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to change the starting Turtwig into a Shuckle so I can start with it. This is the only change I've made to the game. After grabbing our Shuckle, we're thrown straight into our first battle against the rival. This is going to take a while, isn't it? At level 5, Shuckle knows 3 moves. Withdraw, which raises defense, Constrict, which has a pitiful 10 base damage, and Bide, which causes Shuckle to endure attacks for 2 turns before dealing twice the amount of damage taken during those turns. Constrict is our only reliable way of dealing damage, and it is legitimately one of the worst moves in the game. Combine this with our awful attack stat and it will pretty much always deal 1 damage. Luckily, you don't need to win this fight to progress, but I wanted to anyway. Bide can do much more damage, so I just used that and hoped Chimchar attacked so I could take it out, and I did. I also gained 69 XP for doing it. Nice. After the fight, I checked my Shuckle's stats and nature and saw it had a careful nature, which lowers special attack and raises special defense. I was pretty happy with that, since Shuckle doesn't really learn that many special moves, and a high special defense can't hurt. We make our way to Sandgem Town to meet Professor Rowan again, and after a brief talk, he thankfully gives us the TM for Return. Return is a move that scales with a Pokemon's friendship, maxing out at 102 base power with max friendship. I instantly taught this to Shuckle because it was the best reliably damaging move I was going to get for a while. You see, Shuckle's moveset in Generation 4 isn't the best. It only learns 4 damaging moves through level up. One's Bide, which isn't very reliable, another is Constrict, which we've established is atrocious. Wrap is basically just a slightly better Constrict, but that's like upgrading from stepping in Horse Crap to stepping in Dog Crap. The only worthwhile move that Shuckle learns through level up is Bug Bite, which is a decent move, but it only gets learned at level 40. Our moveset isn't great, and it leads to incredibly grindy battles at times, but it's enough to get to Jubilife City. Once here, we can pick up the Quick Claw, which allows us to go first occasionally, which can definitely be useful. We can go east from here to battle our rival in what is the first notable fight in this game. Our rival opens with Starly and spams Growl a lot, which lowers our already poor attack. Taking out Starly isn't difficult because it just sits there growling, but it lowers our attack so much that we're dealing 1 damage to the Chimchar when it comes out. Chimchar then spams Leer to lower defense, which means I have to sit here and deal 1 damage for a bit. Once it's done leering, I can bide whilst it attacks me to deal a lot more damage. Weirdly, at this point in the game, it kind of benefits me to get hit with a critical hit, since it allows me to deal more damage than normal. I luckily got hit with a crit, which is a wild sentence I know, and dealt with a Chimchar with 2 bites. The next destination is Auburg City, where the first gym is. The problem is that it's a rock gym, which just so happens to be one of Shuckle's weaknesses. Beyond that though, our current moveset is basically useless against rock types. Bide is the only way we're dealing any meaningful damage. I gave it a few attempts, but it became quite obvious that Shuckle just doesn't have enough HP to bide through the whole battle. It doesn't help that Rock uses potions. I decided to grind up a bit, but I had to keep in mind that the way I grinded was very important. What am I talking about? Effort values. I had to be mindful of which EVs would be useful for Shuckle. My thought process was that speed EVs were practically useless because Shuckle is so slow that I was pretty much never going to outspeed anything, so there was no point prioritizing it. I also avoided special attack EVs since Shuckle can only learn 2 special moves and I wasn't planning on using them anyway. I was fine with earning EVs in the other stats, but I prioritized HP since having more of it is always useful, and we don't have a great HP stat to begin with. Attack was also a priority since I needed as much help as I could get with dealing damage. Defense and special defense EVs were fine to get, but not as much as a priority since those stats were already really high. I grinded up to level 18 and did a few more attempts, but it was clear that my damage output just wasn't high enough. Now, I could have grinded even more, but like I said earlier, I wanted to avoid doing that, so I thought of another solution. On the way to Orberg, you're given the HM for Rock Smash, which Shuckle can learn. It's a 40 base power move with a 50% chance of lowering defense. It's also a fighting type move and is super effective against Rock's Pokemon. Whilst this sounds like an easy decision, I had to keep in mind that since Rock Smash is a HM, I wouldn't be able to get rid of it until the 6th gym, and Rock Smash isn't really a move you want long term. Despite that though, I decided to teach Shuckle Rock Smash and hoped I could just tolerate having it for a while. I attempted the gym again and found that I was getting past the Geodude much more frequently since it could be taken out with one Rock Smash and a single Bide. The Onix was dealing lower damage, so I just used Rock Smash on it. The defense drops from Rock Smash were really helpful, but I found that I wouldn't have enough HP once I got the Cranidos. After a few attempts though, I got lucky. After a defense drop, I got a quick claw pot followed by a crit, which took the Onix out. The Cranidos honestly can't deal much damage since it doesn't have a rock type move. I took care of it by spamming Rock Smash, which completed the battle and granted me my first gym badge. After beating Rock, we need to make our way to Returner City for the next gym. On the way there, we run into some Team Galactic grunts in Jubilife City, but they're no problem, which is a running theme in this challenge, trust me. We head north out of Jubilife where we find an incredibly helpful thing, the TM for Rock Tomb. This is the first rock move we can get that Shuckle can learn. It's a 50 base power move with 80% accuracy, which isn't that great, but it does always lower speed. Since Shuckle is a rock type though, it also benefits from the same type attack bonus, or stab. This effectively makes it a 75 base power move when we use it. Our moveset is looking a bit better now. We keep heading north until we reach Floroma Town. Not far from there is the Valley Windworks, which houses more of Team Galactic and one of the more infamous battles in this game, Commander Mars. She opens with a Zubat, which I thought would be easy, but it has Toxic. Once Shuckle is poisoned, the battle is pretty much over since there's no way I can win before Shuckle faints. To combat this, I gave Shuckle a Pecha Berry which cures poison, and gave the battle another go. Zubat is a 2-hit with Rock Tomb, but we are then met with the reason this battle is so infamous. At level 17 Perugly, which is illegal by the way since Glameow only evolves at level 38. Honestly though, this fight was easy. We have a super effective move in Rock Smash and I got a bit lucky with defense drops and a critical hit. It also can't do that much damage to us since our defenses are so high. It didn't really take much time to get past this fight. We continue through Eterna Forest, which is no problem, and get to Eterna City where the grass gym is. Initially, I didn't think much going into it, but I suddenly realized that this gym was going to be a major issue. The first trainer has a Cherubi, which shouldn't be too bad. Cherubi sucks. What doesn't suck though is Leech Seed, and if it uses it, it pretty much causes me to lose the battle since Shuckle stays seeded after defeating the Cherubi. I just had to keep throwing myself into the battle until it didn't use Leech Seed. This took a while, but eventually I got past the Cherubi without it using Leech Seed and could take care of the Roselia easily. That was just the first trainer of the gym, so God knows how the rest of it is going to go. The other trainers weren't a problem though, since they either didn't have Leech Seed or only had one Pokemon. With all the trainers dealt with, we can take on Gardenia, and this was weirdly one of the worst parts of this run. Granted, I didn't really help myself because I chose not to learn Rest when I got to level 27 like an idiot. I thought at the time that Bide would be useful for the fight, but I was wrong. I also refused to grind to higher levels, mostly because I thought I could do the fight at level 28, and I am incredibly stubborn, so I just kept throwing myself into the fight until I won. She opens with a Turtwig, and taking that out isn't too difficult, but the next Pokemon is Cherim, which has Leech Seed. If it goes for it, the battle's over. I have to get lucky and have it not use Leech Seed. The thing that you'll learn across this playthrough though is that I have terrible luck. To clue you in, one part of my strategy was to use Rock Smash on the Cherim to lower its defense, which has a 50% chance. I once used Rock Smash 6 times in a row and didn't lower defense. There's less than a 2% chance of that happening. After a while, I decided to go to level 29 and follow a consistent strategy until it worked. I gave Shuckle an Oran Berries for the battle to give it a bit more HP across the fight. The Turtwig mostly opens with Reflect and Sunny Day and then spams Razor Leaf. 2 Rock Tombs drops its speed enough so we can outspeed it. From there I hit a Rock Smash and hope it lowers defense. Spamming Return after that should take it out. I planned on hitting the Cherim with Rock Smash enough to lower its defense by 2 stages so I could do more damage with Return to take it out. Like I said earlier though, I also had to pray that Cherim doesn't use Leech Seed. I luckily got the 2 drops whilst also hitting a critical hit so I could take it out with a Return. Roserade was the only Pokemon left, and I didn't really have a strategy for this one. Most of the time Roserade spammed Magical Leaf, but it would sometimes go for Stun Spore to paralyze me, so that was another thing I had to rely on luck for. Once Roserade was at lower health, I had to be cautious about Gardenia using a potion, so I went for Rock Smash, which didn't do much damage, but it lowered its defense. This was so I could take it out with a final Return. It was definitely tight due to losing turns because of paralysis, but after a lot of attempts, I took out Roserade and gained the second batch. I really regretted not learning Rest for this one. The next thing to do is enter Team Galactic's Eterna building and we end up facing Commander Jupiter. Much like Mars, she opens with a Zubat, which isn't much of a problem, but the Skuntank she has can be difficult. It has Screech, which lowers defense and makes Night Slash do a lot more damage. It also has Smoke Screen, which is annoying since it causes us to miss attacks often. Add in Poison Gas, which poisons us, and this fight can be tricky. After a while though, I got lucky with it not using Screech and Smoke Screen too much and took it out. After the Jupiter fight, there's not much to talk about between Eterna and Hearthome City. This is the Ghost Gym, and I instantly thought I would have a problem with the moves I could use. Since normal and fighting type moves can't damage ghost types, I thought the only move I could use was Rock Tomb. There was no way I had enough power points to last the whole fight. I could level up to 40 to learn Bug Bite, but even then it wouldn't be great since it's not very effective against Fantina's Pokemon. Initially I thought I was going to really struggle until I found out that Bide, despite it being a normal type move, can hit ghost types in Gen 4. It's actually quite interesting because it can't hit them in Gen 3 and 5, but Game Freak decided to change it just for Gen 4. It's weird, but I'm not going to complain. What I can complain about though is this stupid battle. I ended up grinding up to level 38 in order to deal with it. Fantina opens with Duskull and it knows Will-O-Wisp, which is a death sentence, not only because it chips off health every turn, but it also halves their attack. I had hope it either didn't go for it or missed whenever it did go for it. Duskull should go down with 3 Rock Tombs though. The next Pokemon is Haunter, and I hate this thing. You know how Hypnosis has 60% accuracy? Yeah, well that may as well be 90% when used against me. There was one battle where Haunter hit the first 3 Hypnosises it went for, and you should have seen my face when it happened. Confuse Ray is also annoying, but all I had to do was hit 3 Rock Tombs and hope I don't get unlucky with Hypnosis. It's important to have enough HP once I get to the Mismagius, so I gave Shuckle an Oran Berry to help. I was using Bide to deal damage since Rock Tomb wasn't doing enough, but I did hit 1 Rock Tomb to try and avoid Fantina using a potion later on. Mismagius would always spam Shadow Ball, so I used Bide to take 2 hits and dealt massive damage. Using Bide 1 more time was enough to win the battle. The next major battle we have is against the rival. He starts with Staravia. It has Intimidate, which lowers our attack for the remainder of the battle. This annoys me. I thought I could take it out with Rock Tomb, but I had no idea it had Endeavor, which brought me down to low health and made it easy for its other Pokemon to finish me off. It will only use Endeavor if it has low health, so the way around this was to use Rock Smash until it was in range to die by a Rock Tomb. Weasel was no problem as all it took was a few returns. Monferno has a chance to burn us, but I got lucky with a critical hit and finished it fairly easily with Rock Tombs. Roselia couldn't deal that much damage, but it did have Leech Seed, so I had to watch out for that. Overall though, this fight wasn't that bad. We passed through Selacion Town next, and there's not much there, but I did reach level 40 and learn Bug Bite. I decided to get rid of Bide since I'd rather have moves that can deal reliable damage. We then move onward to Veilstone City. The fighting gym is located here, and I gave it a few attempts, but it was clear that Lucario was going to cause some issues due to Metal Claw being super effective. There was a simple solution to this, however. If we backtrack to the Wayward Cave, which is located under the cycling road, we can find the TM for Earthquake. This is a great move, and had the bonus of being super effective against Lucario. I replaced Return since the base power of the moves weren't that much different, and Earthquake had the advantage of being able to deal super effective damage to things. I attempted the gym again, and my strategy was Earthquake the building to the ground. 2 hit the Meditite, 2 hit the Lucario, and 4 hit the Machoke. Simple. After taking care of more Galactic Grunts, the next destination is Pastoria City to take on Crash Awake. But first we have another rival battle to deal with. This fight is the same as the previous fight, just at higher levels, so the strategy is the exact same as before. Except this time I have Bug Bite and Earthquake, which makes this battle much easier. A fight which is definitely not easy though is Crash Awake. This is the Water Gym, and that just so happens to be one of Shuckle's weaknesses. The worst part about it though is Crash Awake opens with Gyarados, which instantly lowers our attack with Intimidate. Not only is our offense neutered, but Gyarados does an obscene amount of damage with Waterfall and Brine. I struggled to even get past Gyarados, let alone the rest of his Pokemon. I obviously had to level up a bit more, but the more I did, the more I realised that I just wasn't going to win with the current strategy I had. So I just changed strategy. Luckily for me, the move reminder is located in Pastoria City, so I could relearn Rest by exchanging a Heart Scale. Now, best case scenario was getting rid of Rock Smash, but it's a HM and they don't wash out easily, so I replaced Bug Bite instead with the intention of relearning it later on. I also went back to Hearthome City to grab the Shell Bell and gave it to Shuckle since it restores a bit of HP every time you deal damage. With my new strategy, I attempted the gym again. Gyarados was still doing a lot of damage, but I could stall it out with Rest if I needed to. I didn't need to do that, however, as I landed a crit with my 3rd Rock Tomb. The next Pokemon was Floatzel, and I immediately used Rest. Using Rest guarantees that you'll sleep for 3 turns, so I'll take some damage, but I'll always have an opportunity to attack twice after I wake up, assuming I don't get crit or have my defense lowered by Crunch. It was just a matter of repeating this Rest cycle until Floatzel fainted. The last Pokemon is Quagsire, which is annoying and goes for Yawn, but I beat it to the punch and used Rest before I fell asleep. I was running out of Earthquakes at this point, so I decided to use Rock Smash to try and fish for defense drops. Once its defense was lowered enough, I could use my final Earthquake to take out Quagsire and earn my 5th badge. After an inconsequential explosion, we continue our journey towards Celestic Town, where we meet Cyrus again and battle him for the first time. He's easy. Rock Smash the Sneasel, and Rock Tomb both the Golbat and Murkrow. Murkrow does have Nightshade, which deals a fair chunk of damage, but I could just PowerPoint Store using Rest. The next place to go after beating Cyrus is Canalave City for the Steel Gym. The good thing about reaching this point is the move deleter is located here. This means we can get rid of Rock Smash finally. After forgetting Rock Smash, I went back to the move reminder to relearn Bug Bite and went back to Canalave to take on the next rival battle. His whole team is fully evolved at this point, but it's honestly not too bad. Intimidate is still annoying, but his Staraptor doesn't have Endeavour anymore, so I don't have to worry about that. Most of his Pokemon aren't a problem, since Earthquake and Rock Tomb are good enough to deal with them. His last Pokemon is Roserade though, and it unfortunately has Leech Seed, so even though the rest of the battle is pretty easy, it can all come crashing down if Leech Seed is used. Fortunately, it didn't take too many attempts for Roserade to not use Leech Seed, and I took it down with a few Bug Bites. We then take on Byron. This is the Steel-type gym, and I have Earthquake. You do the maths. Magneton, Bastiodon, and Steelix are no match for Shuckle, and we beat the gym first try. After a second explosion hits the lakes of Sinnoh, we're required to check on the 3 lakes of the region. First, we travel to Lake Valor and take on Commander Saturn, who is no problem at all. As is the same with Mars over at Lake Verity. One thing I will bring up in this Mars fight though is a cool effect that Bug Bite has. If you use Bug Bite on a Pokemon that's holding a berry, you'll steal the berry and consume it. This is really useful since most big trainers have their best Pokemon hold a Citrus Berry, which restores a quarter of your max HP. This allows me to restore some of Shuckle's HP mid-battle without using Rest. After taking care of Mars, we need to go to the final lake, which is near Snow Point City. This requires a long and arduous trek with too many HMs and sections with slow walking through snow. Nothing here is hard to get past, it's just slow. Once at Snow Point, we need to beat the gym leader to progress, and it's the Ice Gym. The Sneasel is no problem, but Piloswine comes out next, which is a bit of a war of attrition and leaves me at low health going into Obama Snow. All it uses is Wood Hammer, which nearly takes out Shuckle, but a combination of Rest, Bug Bite, and Recall damage deals with Mr. Obama. Candace's last Pokemon is Frostlass, which is a problem since Obama Snow set up Hail earlier. Not only does Frostlass have Snow Cloak, which makes it harder to hit, but it uses Blizzard, which can't miss in the hail. It got really scary at one point because Blizzard ended up freezing Shuckle. Luckily, Shuckle thawed out with 6 HP left and rested up to full to keep the battle going. From there, a mixture of Bug Bite and Rock Tomb took out Candace's last Pokemon on my first attempt. After a quick trip to the lake, we need to go back to Veilstone City to enter Team Galactic's headquarters. But first, now that we can use Rock Climb, I headed to Mount Coronet to grab a move to teach the Shuckle, Rock Slide. I replaced Rock Tomb because Rock Slide is pretty much better in every way. Back in the Team Galactic HQ, we listened to Cyrus's propaganda speech and Cyrus is 27? 27? He's gotta be English if he's looking like that at 27. We end up battling Cyrus and it isn't too bad since all his Pokemon are weak to Rock Slide. His Honchkrow does have Nightshade though, which deals a lot of damage. I got lucky with a critical hit though, which won me the battle. Straight after the fight, we take on Saturn, who is no problem at all. The next place to go is the Spear Pillar for some story stuff, and we're forced into a double battle, which requires us to have 2 Pokemon. I decided to bring my pet Rock with me, who fainted before it could even perform a move, so it was still Shuckle doing all the work. We then take on Commander Mars and Jupiter with help from our rival, and this isn't too hard since we have 2 moves which can hit both opposing Pokemon in Rock Slide and Earthquake. Cyrus then proceeds to summon Dialga and Palkia, which brings the attention of... The devil brings the devil! Oh, yeah! Giratina drags Cyrus into the Distortion World, and we follow which leads to a battle with him. This is the first battle in a while which causes us some issues. The Houndoom he opens with isn't much of a problem, but it does have Will-O-Wisp. Rest can combat this, but it does waste some turns. I gave Shuckle a Rawsberry to cure the burn instead of using Rest so I can spend more time attacking. Cyrus's second Pokemon is Gyarados, which is the main issue in this fight. It has Intimidate, which drastically decreases our attack power, and Waterfall, which does big damage. I decided to PowerPoint Store Waterfall using Rest as the rest of his other attacks didn't do too much damage. Rock Slide is the only real option to use to deal damage since Earthquake does nothing and Bug Bite isn't very effective. The attack drop from Intimidate though made it so it took a long time to take him out. The full restore didn't help. The next Pokemon was Honchkrow, and luckily it didn't have Nightshade at this point so it couldn't do much damage and was taken out with Rock Slides. Weavile next, and it was simple. Bug Bite was all that was needed to make it faint. It also had the benefit of sealing its berry for a bit more health. Crobat was the last Pokemon, but I had a major problem. I had no Rock Slides left because of Gyarados and Honchkrow. Bug Bite does basically nothing since it quad resists and it's immune to Earthquake. This meant I couldn't do anything but lose to the Crobat. I could have leveled up a bit more, but I was at level 69 and I wanted to beat Cyrus at level 69. Because nice. So I decided to go for a different approach, one that would actually help me going forward as well. If I was having a problem with low power points, I should just get more. I spent some time going around the region picking up some PP ups and increased the PP of Rock Slide from 10 to 16. I also did this for Earthquake. I threw myself into the battle again and got to the Crobat. This time I had more than enough power points and all it took was 3 Rock Slides and a Bug Bite to take down Cyrus for good. Nice. After that we come face to face with Giratina. Shuckle doesn't stop for anyone and that includes the Devil, so it Rock Slides it out of existence to prove its superiority. Now we've got the distraction of saving the world out the way, it's time to get back to collecting gym badges. The last gym is in Sunnyshoal City and is home to Volkner, who uses electric types. Shuckle has Earthquake. I don't think I need to explain the strategy for this one. Easy first try. With all the gym badges acquired, we can make our way to the Pokemon League and begin to prepare for the Elite Four. After getting through Victory Road and making it to the Pokemon League though, we are met with our rival in what is our final fight against him. Okay, this fight probably contains the most obscene strategy I've ever used in any video game. The rival has the same team as the last fight we had with him, except this time he's added a Snorlax. This Snorlax has Rest, and since Staraptor lowers our attack with Intimidate, there is practically no way I can do enough damage to Snorlax to make it faint. As soon as it gets below half health, it just uses Rest to heal back up. I'd have to get lucky with a critical hit, but even then, I'd have to rely on hitting a crit at a very specific point in the fight to beat it. I couldn't rely on that. What would end up happening is two Pokemon staring at each other, constantly sleeping the turns away until all our power points were gone, and it'd struggle itself to death. I'd have no PP left for the rest of the battle and easily lose. Yet again, I could have spent some time grinding to higher levels, but I didn't want to, because I came across a strategy that I thought could work at my current level. First things first, I went and grabbed any remaining PP ups I could and increased Bug Bite's power points to 24. I also gave Shuckle a Leopard Berry to hold, which restores 10 PP when a move runs out of power points. I was doing everything I could to avoid running out of PP in this battle, because I love PP. Staraptor starts the battle, and if it ever went for U-turn, I reset. This was because it would lower my attack even more when it came back in later in the fight. The Staraptor can be dealt with easily with Rock Slides. Next Pokemon. Floatzel. Earthquake and Bug Bite were enough to take it out. Heracross was next, and it liked to use close combat, which did do some damage, but it also lowered its defense. This allowed me to do much more damage than usual and take it out pretty simply with Rock Slide. Next up was Snorlax, and let the war of attrition begin. My goal was for Snorlax to run out of power points. The 4 moves that Snorlax has is Rest, Body Slam, Crunch, and Earthquake. This totals up to 50 power points that I'll have to stall out. I had 53 total PP left, but the Leopard Berry adds 10, so I actually had 63 left. I had to be careful which moves I picked, because I needed moves like Earthquake for the last 2 Pokemon. Keeping a few power points in Rest was also important, as I needed it to heal later in the fight. I alternated between my attacking moves, but mostly used Rock Slide and Bug Bite. I used Rest whenever Snorlax brought me down to low health and just repeated the cycle. However, I did try and use Snorlax's moves to my advantage. Like I said earlier, Snorlax has Body Slam. It has a 30% chance of paralysis, and when you're paralyzed, you don't consume any power points, so I tried to stay paralyzed for as long as I could in order to waste turns without wasting my PP. I had to be careful though, since Crunch has a 20% chance to lower defense, and it could lead to Shuckle taking a lot of damage if it does lower it. I went through the war of attrition trying my hardest to keep as many power points as I could until Snorlax finally started struggling. In Gen 4, Struggle deals recall damage equal to a quarter of the Pokemon's max health, so the Snorlax takes itself out pretty quickly whilst not dealing much damage to me. The Infernape was out next, and I wasn't looking too good in terms of power points. 2 in Rock Slide, 1 in Rest, 3 in Earthquake, and 1 in Bug Bite. It took 2 Rock Slides and 2 Earthquakes to deal with Infernape, so I only had 3 moves left for the last Pokemon. That last Pokemon was Roserade. Thankfully it doesn't have Leech Seed anymore, but it can be annoying and put me to sleep with Grass Whistle. It missed the first time, and I very luckily hit a critical hit with Earthquake, which took it down close to death. Unfortunately, it put me to sleep the next turn and started slowly draining Shuckle's health using Giga Drain. By the time Shuckle woke up and used Bug Bite, Roserade had gained enough health that it didn't kill. All I had left was a single power point in Rest, so that's all I could do. It missed another Grass Whistle as I rested back up and waited. No moves left. Asleep. Hoping Roserade didn't deal too much damage before Shuckle woke up and struggled. One struggle was not enough. This was going to be close. The fight may have gone on for what seemed like 3 lifetimes, but I ended up struggling my way to victory against the rival. The only thing left to do was the Elite Four and Champion. The first Elite Four member uses Bug types, and it's honestly an easy fight. Scizor is the only danger due to it being a Steel type, but using Rock Slide on everything else was enough to win. Except the Drapion. I used Earthquake on that one. The next member is Bertha, who uses Ground types, and this right here is what we call a wall brother. The Whiscash and Golem aren't a problem, but you're then introduced to Rhyperior, who absolutely is a problem. This thing hits ridiculously hard and can take the hits as well. If all it had was Earthquake, I could probably manage, but the thing has a little move called Rock Wrecker. What does Rock Wrecker do? Yeah! Even if you manage to get past Rhyperior, you face a Powdon who's also tanky and likes to put you to sleep with Yawn. It can also lower your defense with Crunch, which is never good. It was obvious I needed to level up here, so I spent some time grinding up to level 90. Those defensive stats are ridiculous. The first Elite Four member continued to be easy. I mean, come on, you have 2 Pokemon who are 4 times weak to Rock. I gave Bertha another go and came face to face with Rhyperior again. I used Bug Bite to steal its berry and spammed Earthquake. I got lucky as it missed Rock Wrecker and finished it off to move on to her Powdon. At one point I thought I messed up by not using Rest earlier, but Stone Edge ended up missing so I could heal right back up. This was another war of attrition, but I eventually took out her Powdon to reach Bertha's last Pokemon, which was Gliscor. It couldn't do much damage because her Powdon's crunches didn't lower my defense luckily, and Rock Slide was enough to finish the battle. Flint is the third Elite Four member and he uses fire types. I have Earthquake and Rock Slide, so nothing here was an issue. Just hit those moves until you win. The final member is the Psychic type user Lucian. This was also not too bad since Bug Bite dealt super effective damage to most of his Pokemon. I was worried about Bronzong though, since I knew it had Calm Mind, but it just never went for it and I Bug Bit it to death. Gallade was also weirdly not an issue. A couple more Bug Bites on Alakazam and I made it past the fight surprisingly easily. With the Elite Four beaten, there's only one battle left in this game. Cynthia. As we're all aware at this point, she opens with Spiritomb and it can't really do much against Shuckle. So much so that she actually switches out and brings in Togekiss. It just so happens that I selected Rock Slide as she switched, so I did some decent damage. Another Rock Slide forces Cynthia to use a full restore. Some more Rock Slides takes out Togekiss. One down. Out comes Milotic. Surf does some decent damage, but I was confident I could rest my way through it. Multiple Earthquakes, including one that was a crit, takes it down. 2 down. Lucario is next. I rest as it misses 2 Stone Edges, but it then crits a Stone Edge followed by another one. Earthquake can 2-hit it, but I was cautious of another crit, so I rested up. I took it out with another Earthquake once Shuckle woke up. Halfway there. The big one's next. Garchomp. I use Bug Bite to steal its berry and heal back up to full. Dragon Rush causes a flinch, but it misses the next turn. I continue to use Earthquake and Bug Bite, but Cynthia uses her full restore. At this point, Garchomp started using Giga Impact, which was weird because it still had Earthquake and Dragon Rush, which did way more damage and didn't cause it to waste a turn. I continued to use Bug Bite until it went down. 2 left. Cynthia brings out Spiritomb again, and it just lives from an Earthquake. A full restore is used, but Spiritomb can't really hurt us. Spiritomb does have pressure though, and I was running a bit low on power points, so I had to be mindful of that. I used the rest of my Rock Slides, rested up when I needed to, and used Bug Bite to finish Spiritomb off. One more to go. Roserade. It doesn't have Leech Seed, but it does have Toxic, which can be worked around with rest. 2 Earthquakes brought Roserade down to low health. I rested to get rid of the poison, and one final Earthquake after waking up put Roserade down and caused humble old Shuckle to defeat the Pokemon champion. Fun fact, I beat this fight on my first try. But would you look at that? Pokemon Platinum has been conquered by a single Shuckle. I really enjoyed doing this, mostly because there were times where I had to really think about different approaches to battles. The final rival fight might have been a war of attrition, but I can't tell you how gratifying it was to finally get through with the strategy I used. Honestly though, this challenge became a lot easier after I grabbed Earthquake. Things just took way less attempts after grabbing it. I should bring up at this point that I wasn't the only one to have this idea with Shuckle, because literally as I was in the middle of this playthrough, YouTuber Magi Bread uploaded their video about using Shuckle in Pokemon Platinum. If you haven't watched that video though, I recommend it, because even though it's the same premise, we actually have different approaches at points, and it's definitely interesting to watch. I think one thing we can come to a conclusion though after all of this is that you don't with Shuckle. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment and subscribe if you want, as I do like doing stupid challenges from time to time. And hey, if you want to support me even more, I've recently opened up a membership for this channel. It would definitely help me continue making videos on a more consistent basis for all you guys to enjoy, and I would greatly appreciate it. With all that said, here's some other videos I've done if you want to watch them. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and see ya.